Hey guys, I wanted to introduce you to electric bike drive systems and different motor types. So what we're looking at here is a Specialized Turbo X. It's got a gearless direct drive hub motor. Over here with the Energy Cycles Excursion 2.0, we've got a planetary geared hub motor, and then we've got a mid-drive right there. Now there are other electric bike drives out there, including this sort of friction drive where you've got something hanging off the back of the bike and it actually makes contact with the wheel. You might have heard of the Rubby. That's a good example of that. And then there are actually trailers and different things that they might have like a little can drive that pulls a chain and moves the wheel. Back, I don't know, it was like 2012, 2013, there was a bike called the E-Zip Trails, and it had one of these can motors sort of mounted on the chainstay, and it would pull the chain. It actually had its own chain. So there's a variety of motor types out there, but the basic idea is that inside all of these, there is a gearless motor. Okay, now I know that sounds weird because I just called that a gearless motor. The difference is this is a big gearless motor. The one that's in here, it's super small. It's like right in the middle, and it spins a lot faster, and in order to produce torque, you sort of step down that speed using 3 planetary gears. And by doing that, they're able to use fewer magnets. It's able to be sort of a smaller, lighter weight motor, but still give you a good power output. Now there are more moving parts, and that might lead to some premature wear as compared with a gearless hub motor. And this one in particular is direct drive. And what that means is there isn't like a freewheel in there just letting it coast efficiently. When you aren't applying power, this is still sort of connected to the axle, and there's a ring of magnets in there, pretty powerful magnets, and they actually repel, but it creates something called cogging. So I can kind of demonstrate that. If you just lift the bike up a little bit and try to spin that rear wheel, it's not going to spin as efficiently as if it were just a free wheel. So I kind of lift it up. You can see it just doesn't coast as efficiently as something like this. I'm going to do the same thing. There we go, and you can see how efficiently that one's spinning. It takes a lot longer to slow down. You don't have that cogging going on. You don't have that resistance. So that's one of the drawbacks, but what some companies have been able to do is to actually turn this into almost like a generator. So, it takes electricity to power the motor. But if you kind of reverse that, you start to generate electricity. And I've heard, 5 to 10% regeneration, depending on how fast you're going, how much weight's on the bike, and actually the motor system. And that's kind of a cool thing. In the case of the Turbo X, it doesn't offer regenerative braking, but it does have a regen mode. So you can kind of arrow down and say, hey, I'm coasting down a big hill. Let's capture some of that energy so I don't have to brake. I don't have to wear out those brake pads as quickly. I don't have to, strain my hand doing that. So it's a neat system, but it is fancier. It's a little bit more expensive to include that kind of thing. Now, if we step over to the geared hub motor, again, a little bit lighter, potentially more affordable. You're not going to have cogging, but there isn't regeneration, and you have those moving parts. So those are kind of the big differences. And for a folding bike like this is a great choice because it keeps it lightweight, although it might produce a little bit more noise as you're riding along because of those gears and because the motor is spinning faster than that gearless motor. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on and rev it up for you real quick and kind of hear it. So you can kind of hear that humming noise going on. And again, spinning faster, got some gears going on. Now this 8-fun motor, it's actually very similar to either of these two motors, and the only difference is how it's mounted. So you'll notice that with rear-mounted or front-mounted hub motors, you're dealing with kind of some extra complexity and a part of the bike where you've already got gears, you've already got a chain, potentially a derailleur. This bike actually has a shaft drive, which is really unique, so it's a lot less complex, but there's still kind of the issue of taking it off if you need to replace the tire or, fix a flat. And a lot of them have these quick disconnects, but it just makes it more difficult. Some bikes have quick releases, even with a hub motor, but not all of them. So back at the Specialized Turbo here, there is no quick release on the rear wheel. It actually has a through axle, so it's a little bit more, it's a higher involvement when you're working on it. And of course, the weight distribution has changed because you've got something hanging out towards the back. If you have a full suspension bike, having a hub motor really isn't ideal because there's more mass kind of going up and down when you're riding that bike. So a lot of the full suspension bikes I see now, they tend to go with the mid-drive, and they use something like Bosch or the Impulse system, or again, this sort of 8-fun Bafang mid-drive. And one of the other big benefits, aside from weight distribution on these, is that this motor pulls the chain with you. So it's actually benefiting from the cassette and these different gears for improved efficiency. Okay, now a system like this 8-fun here, it's a little bit more affordable, but it doesn't have shift detection. And what that means is you might be pedaling along and you're getting lots of extra power because the motor's helping you. When you want to switch gears, you might relax your cadence a little bit. You might ease off because you want the chain to switch efficiently. But the motor doesn't know that. It's just listening. Oh, they're pedaling. They want to have, power, and it's still pulling hard, and that can mash the gears. It can kind of mess up the chain and kind of chip these different the teeth in here. It's kind of increased wear. So there are different levels of motors to consider, of course, in addition to different technologies. The mid-drive is great for some applications, but there are other times where you say, you know what, this is still a little bit loud, it's still going to be producing some wear. I want something that's super, super quiet, super efficient, and then a hub motor makes a lot of sense. Or you may say, I want to blend in, I don't like how wide that is, because again, in order to have great leverage and power, this motor needs to be wider than something like this geared design. And see how nicely that blends in? It just kind of hides behind the disc brake on the other side, and if there was a cassette there, it would just really integrate nicely. It keeps it lightweight. So that's a good sort of intro to electric bike motors. There's more information back in the community of ElectricBikeReview.com, and I'll be doing other primers to just sort of help you discover the world of electric bikes, and I'm happy to answer questions and get you started on the path to finding the right one for your needs. All of these systems can work great, and they're just maybe better or worse depending on the application. So good luck and ride safe.